The business news. It's time now on Live from Paris for our nightly feature Media Watch with James Creedon here with me in the studio.
Good evening,
James.
Catherine.
You've been scouring, as ever, the social networks, the World Wide Web to find the pick there. And we're starting with the fallout of the Ukraine crisis.
That's right.
Online.
What's interesting, I think, Catherine, is depends on the websites you pick, if they're left-wing or right-wing, if they're a bit pro-Russian,
very divided opinion.
A very divided opinion on what's going on in Ukraine, and very different narratives playing out online. So just let's take a look at some of what's so those headlines are. A lot of talk of proxy war. Is this a proxy war between the US and the EU and Russia? I.e., are they playing out as a...
The West versus Russia, the Cold War too.
Exactly. And the White House says absolutely not. But if you go on defence websites such as this one, defence1.com, they're talking about it in much more sort of factual terms. Will Ukraine become a proxy war between the US and Russia? And they're sort of saying quite possibly. And we saw today that was one of the big developments in the region. Putin drilling his ground troops, well, not his ground troops, but Russia's ground troops, at the doorstep of a fragile Ukraine.
Pretty much the same thing.
Right. A lot of people would. But, so there you go. A lot of people saying, look, that is proof that there are quite a lot of tensions and that he is viewing this as something that is threatening Russia's interests and that the US and the EU are meddling in some way, shape or form. Now, if you look at Caroline Fourest, a French journalist writing for the Huffington Post French edition today, she's saying, look, hold on a minute here. Russian propaganda, it's completely ridiculous to put this down to a Yankee plot. I mean, as if the Americans have the desire or the need or the means to pay hundreds of thousands of demonstrators over 3 months to overthrow the regime. So she's being very cynical about Russian claims that this is a Yankee plot. She's also saying, as for the EU, can they really afford to take on another case of massive debt? I.e. Ukraine's public finances are not in good shape. So that's one point of view. If you go
a lot
on,
of people wouldn't necessarily agree with that.
That's right, indeed. And if you go on this website here, it's one of many that are saying that the Ukrainian coup, that Washington's role in the Ukrainian, what they're calling openly a coup, as the Russians are, could spin out of control. Now, they're pointing to two pieces of video, which it's not the first time that these videos came under the spotlight of the media. Now, the first one is Victoria Nuland of the US State Department. This was a video that was leaked probably by the Russians a couple of weeks back, in which she infamously said this. She's discussing with another State Department, US State Department colleague, the aftermath of Yanukovych leaving power and what kind of a Western-orientated government might be put in place, the various people that would be part of that government, and she infamously said, F the EU. So that got an awful lot of media attention at the time because it gave an insight into Americans sort of saying, well, we can just not worry too much about what Europeans think in terms of what the...
It's a very diplomatic way of putting it.
That's right.
You get it
But
much
in any
more
case,
diplomatically than she did.
This is it. And this video, a lot of what's being drawn attention to here, essentially, is that there was an attempt, some would say, to hand-pick certain elements of that regime. That's what came across in that phone call, which was leaked, by all accounts, by Russians. Now, the other video that I want to draw attention to is this one. It's had over 7 million hits on YouTube. I am a Ukrainian. It was one of those viral videos demonstrating what the grassroots feel in the centre of Kiev in the run-up to Yanukovych's departure from power. Let's take a look at an extract.
I am the Ukrainian, the native of Kiev, and now I am on Maidan. We want to be free. I know that maybe tomorrow we will have no phone, no internet connection, and we will be alone here. And maybe policemen will murder us one after another when it will be dark here.
Right, so that depicts very, a very telegenic Ukrainian woman speaking on behalf of the grassroots, on behalf of the demonstrators on Maidan, except it appears that the clip was produced by the team behind A Whisper to a Roar, which is a documentary about the fight for democracy. Now, who was the inspiration behind that documentary? A very prominent member of the Council for Foreign Relations, Larry Diamond, and the Council for Foreign Relations is one of the most influential American foreign policy think tanks. So it does appear that video, which looks like something very grassroots, might have had some help in getting over 7 million views online and in being produced so slickly by sort of pro-American influences.
Yeah, it was very slickly produced. Thank you for that. Very interesting insight there into the crisis in Ukraine. We'll have to leave it there. That was James Creedon with Media Watch. Do stay tuned. We're going to have the latest international headlines very soon for you.